You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Homefield Apparel. And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another disappointed episode of the Assembly Call, as today your Indiana Hoosiers fall on the road in West Lafayette at Mackey Arena 69-67 in a really tough loss for the Hoosiers at Purdue in a game where Indiana had a lot of players who did a lot of good things to put themselves in a position to get a win. And, I was explaining to my wife before the game, it's an interesting game coming into this one because, Purdue is obviously a really good team. Mackey Arena is a really tough place to play. And there was always going to be a world in which Indiana actually played a really good game and still lost. And that's what happened today. But because of the context and the missed opportunities that Indiana has had over the last month, close just was never going to be good enough today. You had to come get this win to make up for missed opportunities. And Indiana was so close. But as has happened just too often this season, so close just wasn't good enough. And the Hoosiers fall 69-67. The loss drops Indiana to 18-12 overall, 9-11 in conference play, and clearly needing to make a run in the Big Ten tournament next week to have a shot at the NCAA tournament. I'm your host, Jared Morris. I'm here with Coach Brian Tonsoni and Ryan Phillips. And we're going to break it all down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And let's start the show the way that we start every show, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And look, I'm going to the end of the game for the banner moment, but the score 67-65 Purdue with like a minute left, or maybe even a little bit less. Xavier Johnson has the ball, gets a step on Purdue's defense, and is driving in for the tying bucket, and clearly gets fouled by Travion Williams, and there is no call. And that should have been either a layup for Xavier Johnson or 2 free throws for a guy who has been a good clutch free throw shooter. But one of the stories of the game, in addition to missed opportunities late for Indiana, was a whistle that was very unkind. And I think as this game went on, unfairly unkind. And those of you who have listened to the show a lot know that I'm not one who talks a lot about officiating, but I thought it was a major storyline today.
It's my job.
I thought it was a major storyline today. And I thought that play, Indiana deserved better. I think that's exactly what you want, is X with the ball going toward the basket to tie it up. And Indiana just didn't get it. A little bit later, down 3 or down 2, Parker Stewart gets a wide open 3. The one he missed several times against Rutgers and made at the very end. He's unable to make it. Those missed opportunities. But, look, the banner moment has to involve Xavier Johnson, who was terrific. And as I said before the game, the path to Indiana winning this game was Xavier Johnson had to at least battle Jaden Ivey to a draw in terms of who was the best guard on the court. And Xavier Johnson did better than that. He was the best guard on the court today. He had 18 points, 12 assists, 3 steals. He didn't make his threes. He was 0-4 from downtown. 4-4 from the free throw line. But, in the second half, after Indiana got down early in the second half, Xavier Johnson brought Indiana back. And I thought we saw offensively some of the things that we've wanted to see. Indiana opening up the offense, not just sticking a post man on the block, getting Trace Jackson-Davis involved in pick and rolls, having him as a cutter, as a lob man. The offense looked a lot better, granted against a team that's not very good defensively. And Xavier Johnson was the engine in all of it. He is the guy, the kind of player that Indiana has been missing in this rivalry. And I don't think it's any coincidence that in the 2 games Indiana has had with him, they won one and they came damn close to winning another one. For all the mistakes he makes, and look, we'll talk about his decision at the very end there to try and draw the foul instead of taking another couple dribbles and getting a better shot. But the guy competes and he's willing to make big plays. He's capable of making big plays, and he's a difference maker at the guard position. And, he's been up and down this season, but man, he's come through in some big moments for Indiana. He came through today. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, but, he's driving right there to give in to put Indiana in a position where they would have been tied at Purdue with under a minute to go, with the season hanging in the balance. And he deserved better because he got fouled and he should have been going to the free throw line to shoot free throws. And that was a travesty. All right, our banner moment today, as always, brought to you by our friends at Homefield Apparel, now in their 5th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their first as the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. As I know Homefield has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you will find anywhere. They've got some incredible, beloved old logos, like 2 different versions of the Bison. They've got an awesome shirt commemorating, I think it was the 1983 IU women's basketball team. Just tons of great IU apparel there. And if you support other college teams or have people in your life who do, they probably have something for them too, especially, if that person is a fan of a traditional basketball power, because Kansas came out, Villanova recently came out. I mean, it's just great article of clothing after great article of clothing. And what's awesome is the material that it's printed on is really nice. It's comfortable. It lasts through washings. And you're going to be supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through Kelly, that has been a longtime supporter of our show. And what could be better than that? So go to homefieldapparel.com, use our promo code HOME, HOME, to get 15% off your first order. That's promo code HOME to get 15% off your first order. Once again, the website, homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. Okay, well, it is time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And, Coach, we will go to you first. It is Tonsoni time. What's on your mind?
Yeah, just another disappointing performance down the stretch. 3 big turnovers by guys who played well. I thought Kopp played well today, shot the ball well, fought really hard on defense. I thought Xavier was again, the reason that Indiana was in the basketball game. And Xavier, with his cramps or whatever it was, he never was the same guy when he came back in. It looked like he was a step slow defensively. He had 2 turnovers, trying to do too much. I think trying to make spectacular plays when the game was tight and turn the ball over. Miller Kopp, the cut was there. The execution of the pass wasn't there. The guy was open. The defender makes a better play, but maybe there you just need to get the ball in. You had 8 or 9 seconds to attack and get fouled. And so there's 3 cases of these guys wanting to win and do something from guys who played really hard, and they didn't make bad decisions. They just didn't execute in the clutch. And that's something that the players have to do in order to win these games, because every game in the Big Ten is going to be like that. You can't fault them for effort, energy, not wanting to win, bad-mouthing them as players. They made the right reads. They just didn't. The reads were there. It might not have been the read to go to in those certain situations. You still had other options. And that's some of the basketball IQ, I think, that this team is lacking. There's some physical issues with this basketball team, players, and there's some basketball understanding, which is frustrating. And you can pass the blame around a million different ways on that. But when it come down to crunch time, one team got it done and the other team didn't. And that's just been the story of Indiana basketball all year, and it hasn't gotten better. The late game performance, I was happy with the late first half performance. A 9-0 run was really good to see. And I'll say these guys, this could have been a 30-point. You lose a game that effectively knocks you out of the tournament at home on senior day, and then you got to travel to West Lafayette after beating them, knowing the place it's going to be. You could have been boat raced here, and they were down 10, 11 a couple times and fought back. And that has to go to credit to the coaching staff, credit there. And not that we want to give credit on losses by any means, but this could have been a real ugly performance. And I think it shows the character. They just need to play better basketball. And it might be better basketball players. It might be a coach who needs to do a better job of coaching. All of those things are fair, because Indiana's not going to make the tournament because of these late game collapses. But it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I was nervous about an outcome that was not going to be even close to being enjoyable to discuss. So, again, I think you saw 2 different systems today, and you saw both systems work well, and both systems, what the negatives were, came out and happened as well. Both teams tried to play defense. Indiana plays better defense than Purdue, I think, and that defense tonight that Indiana played was outstanding. It was very physical, and that's why there were more fouls. I did not have a problem like you did, Jared, with any of the fouls. I thought it was really fairly, and we had to beat them up, and we did. And you're going to get more calls if you're the more physical team. But this team needs better players, and that comes to recruiting. And Coach Woodson needs to adapt to the college game a lot more, and you'll see these games go in the win column. That's just the way I feel. I think this team plays hard, and that's a sign going forward for the Big Ten tournament, the NIT, whatever. And next year, I think there are some positives if you want to dig deep enough.
All right, let's go over to Ryan for his rumination after this Indiana loss.
We changing the name? Is that official, or is that leading into next year, or what?
Just trying to maybe set it up on a more positive slant.
No, I mean, look, the team played exceptionally hard today, and there were some definite positives from Xavier Johnson. I thought Race Thompson really kept him in it early. It's kind of the same story we've seen all year. Now, I thought they finished better in this. I mean, they did collapse a bit with those 3 turnovers, as Coach said, but I thought they played better late than they have in a lot of these games where they've blown it late. But again, it's another game where with 5-6 minutes left, you're even with the other team and you lose and you just get outplayed down the stretch. And that's been the story all season long. You want to put it in the box. It's not the lack of shooting. It's not the offensive being stagnant offensive. It's not. You want to put this season in a box. It's the last 5 to 6 minutes. Indiana cannot compete with the opposing team. They just cannot win games. There are a handful when they have, but there's also a handful of games, as we've talked about on here, where, hey, if the game lasted 2 or 3 minutes longer, it would have been another loss. They just do not play well late. And that's what this program has to figure out in the offseason. Why is that? Is it the players? Is it the system they're running? Is it, whatever? That's what you have to figure out, because that's winning time. They call it winning time for a reason. That's when you win games, is how hard you close, you finish. I will say on the officiating, I agree, Coach, that Indiana was going to have more fouls than Purdue. I agree. But there has never been a Big Ten game when for the first 19 minutes of the half, a team only has 3 fouls. I mean, that's happened before, but it's because of bad officiating. These teams bump each other off cuts. They hand check. Everybody does these things. And the fact that Purdue, through 36 minutes, had 6 fouls called against them in the entire game, and then with a minute to go in the half, only had 3 in the second half. And the only reason they got up higher was because they intentionally fouled so obviously that Bo Borowski had to call them. I do think the officiating was pretty damn bad. I thought there were a couple fouls on Indiana. They were anticipatory calls. Those happen, but I thought they happened a bit much today. I definitely think, look, you're at home, you're going to get some calls. I just thought it was, anytime you're 8-2 in a half in foul calls, it's like, come on, guys. Come on. Everybody bumps off a cut. Everybody hand checks.
You got to have cuts to bump people off of, Ryan.
That was happening, though, Coach. I saw it. I saw it underneath the basket. I saw TJD set a screen.
I honestly disagree. I was watching this and thought, I did not think once that we were getting hosed at Purdue. Not even close.
I thought Stefanovic had his hands on a few guys. I thought Ivy was playing late on guys and grabbed them as they tried to drive by him or move by him. Again, it didn't change. I don't think it changes the outcome of the game. I just think it's one of those things where it's like, come on, man. Because then you call Jordan Geronimo for touching a guy, as he drives by. And it's like, so, or Michael Durr sticks his hand up and they automatically call a foul on Edie's dunk. And it's like, come on. So anyway, I thought some of the games recently where they haven't called as many fouls have been fine, where it's, you'll end a half at 5-4 in fouls, just not calling the nitpicky stuff. I'm fine with that. But anyway, I think it was just a team that didn't, again, struggle to close. And that's been the story all season. And maybe a new group of players coming in will help them change that. Maybe Woodson will change what he's doing late. But it's just been the same story. It's a tape on repeat. At least this time, I thought they didn't completely flop coming out of the half. I thought they struggled right initially out of the half and then kind of got it back together, largely thanks to X playing smart. I just think that this is, Purdue's the better team. The better team won. But at the same time, it's the same problems we've seen all year from Indiana, and they really have to figure out a way to fix them this offseason.
Ryan, I want to address something that you said there, because, you're right. Today was more of the same where, okay, you've got to lead. You got to try and find a way to win this game.
Close it out.
But, I think when you're looking for reasons, this is the day we're all celebrating Coach K. It's his final home game. I happened to stumble upon a video yesterday, and it was from, I think it was his preseason speech to the Zion and RJ Barrett team. And he was talking to him about, all the things that you need to do to be a good player and how hard you need to practice and how hard you need to work. And he was like, guys, the main thing, if you're going to work on anything that you got to get good at, you got to be able to make foul shots and you got to be able to make the standstill 3-pointer. Those are the 2 things that you have to be able to do at the college level.
Yep.
Today, Indiana makes the foul shots. 10 of 10 from the free throw line for Indiana today. But I really, to me, again, there were 2 things Indiana had to do to win today. X had to be great. X was great. And Indiana's going to have to make threes. And today, Indiana was 5 of 20 from 3-point range.
Yeah, Miller Kopp held up his end of the bargain. Nobody else did.
Miller Kopp did. But, I think nothing is as simple as one fix. But I think we need guys who can make big shots, who can just make shots. We saw too often today guys with wide open or decent, at least 3-point opportunities, pass them up. You can't do that in a game like this. You got to take them and make them. Parker Stewart is here to make shots. He's got to make that open shot late. The offense created a good shot for him. And so at a certain
I thought Parker
point,
really struggled today.
He did. And at a certain point, you've got to have guys who can just make those shots. When Purdue really needed a shot, right? When they made their little run and it was 56-56, what did they do? They ran Stefanovic off a screen. Everyone knew he was going to make it. When Rutgers needed a shot, they give it to Ron Harper. Everyone knew that he was going to make it. Those are the teams that win in the Big Ten. And the last couple teams that Indiana has had that have been good, you had guys who would make those shots. Yogi Ferrell would make that shot. Victor Oladipo or Jordan Holes would make that shot. And Indiana's got to have guys, find guys, develop guys who can make those shots and who are willing to take those shots. Because that, to me, was the biggest issue today, is passing up decent looks and missing open ones. And
I agree.
Look, I don't think you just give the coaching or the offense a pass if they create an open look. There's still, it's more than just like that guy has to make it. But at the end of the day, that guy just has to make it. So whether it's the coach giving him confidence or the training in the offseason or the development or the conditioning, we just have to make those shots. And until we do, we're going to keep getting beaten by the teams that make them.
Yeah, Jared, Indiana made 3 more field goals than Purdue did and shot 43% from the field while Purdue shot 39.7. But Purdue made 9 threes and Indiana made 5. That's the difference in the game right there. I mean, it's more than the difference in the game. That's
the thing. We've been playing offense with one hand tied behind our back in Big Ten play because we're the worst free throw shooting team and we get the worst percentage, or we take the fewest 3-pointers.
Agreed.
Offense is hard when you do that.
Agreed, especially these days because everyone else is going to do those things. Everyone else is going to make threes, and I agree. Look, if it were me, every offer that I make for a perimeter player, guys got to be shooting at least 35 to 40% from 3 in high school. There's not I'm more. Sorry. Or higher, of course.
Because it's going to be more difficult in college.
Of course, coach. I completely agree. But that's the baseline. 35% is the baseline. You can develop, you can make them a little bit better. But if you're a guy who shoots 18% from 3, but you're athletic and you've got upside, I'm sorry. Go enjoy the MAC. You know what I mean? You've got to be able to hit 3. Archie Miller took risks on a lot of guys like that. And they couldn't shoot, that we knew couldn't shoot coming in, and thinking we could develop them like Tom Crean's staff developed shooters. Tom Crean's staff was phenomenal at developing shooters. But it doesn't always work out like that. You can develop guys. You can improve guys. But it's usually incremental. It's not turn them from a guy who can't hit anything to a 35% 3-point shooter. So, if you're recruiting, you got to find shooters. This program needs shooters so bad. The Big Ten is too good to not have shooters on your roster. And let's be real. Parker Stewart at one point was making 45% of his threes this year and then fell off a cliff. 6 weeks ago, he makes a lot of those. He makes those 2 threes he had today. He only took 2, which is shocking, but in this game. But he, a couple weeks ago,
for years, all of the stats, even under Archie, Indiana getting good shots, players not hitting them.
Yep.
And then it was Archie took away their confidence, and then Coach Woodson's a great confidence guy, and he's going to give them confidence, and everyone's been loving Coach Woodson's confidence. You know what? Guys can't make shots with confidence, and guys can't make shots without confidence. That's equals guys can't make shots.
Yeah, no.
So you got to go get guys who can make shots.
Agreed. And it dovetails. Look, you do, once the guys get on the campus, you have to continue to develop them and emphasize shooting and emphasize working on shooting. And again, that's one thing that Tom Crean's staff, to give them credit, there was a lot of problems with that staff. One thing they did was emphasize the importance of shooting, worked on it constantly, all of that. That's good. You need that. I'm sorry, you can't ignore that. You can't dial that.
CJ Gunn's coming.
Yeah.
He had a 28-point half or something in the sectionals. Hope he has another one tonight.
Is he coming by Thursday?
Yeah.
Can it transfer? That's another thing too.
And a couple guys, obviously when you step on campus.
Can it transfer to the Big Ten?
And obviously, when you step on campus, you may not be ready to contribute on that level yet as a shooter because you got to be quicker. You got to do all.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you got to get dudes who can fill it up.
I agree.
Because it just and you do need a closer. I think, Jared, your point about being a closer is evident. Indiana's closer is a post guy who has one move, and that's to catch an alley-oop and dunk the basketball. That's his move, and you got to put him in position to get those going, and he can get a rebound drop step every once in a while, but he's not a back to the basket guy. But that's the closer, and teams have closer. Ron Harper Jr., as you mentioned, closer. Ivy is a closer. He's won some games for Purdue with a catch and falling out of bounds it's just a crazy shot, but it goes in. Indiana doesn't have that creation guy other than X, but that's more of a point guard creation as opposed to a scorer creation. That's what a game like this just comes down to is you need shot makers and you need playmakers. And we only had one playmaker that really X had a terrific game. And then unfortunately you just hate it as a coach when guys just really lay it on the line, give you everything you got. And then they're the ones who make the mistakes at the end, and everyone's going to point their finger at them and be mad at them. But, we're not within 25 if X doesn't play.
Yeah, without him, the team's not even close.
No. And look, it's a 2-point loss. So, the plays at the end of the game always get highlighted. Right. Think back to the first half. How many rebounds and loose balls Indiana didn't get? Those little possessions matter. And
it's happening in the second half
too. Plays throughout the course of a game that lead to a 2-point loss.
Rebounding was bad today. Rebounding was bad. I don't know what the numbers were, but there were periods of times where rebounding gave extra opportunities to one of the top-rated offenses in the country, and you lose by 2.
Chance points for Purdue.
What's that?
15 second chance points for Purdue. Indiana had 2.
Can't do that, man.
There's the reason.
The other, something to say, and again, I'm not trying to knock Parker Stewart. I get you get caught up in a game, but something as stupid as that technical that he got, that's
2 points.
2 points. Dumb. That was just dumb. And then he's saying, no, he pushed me. It's like, Parker, it doesn't matter. You pushed it back. They always miss the first one, buddy. And it's
so I'm going to say this, and I'm not down there, and I know we want to go different directions, but this team's not disciplined either. That technical foul, the crap that happened in Northwestern, the fouling a 3-point shooter and giving up 2 shots when it was a big play. This team is undisciplined. The turnovers at the end, undisciplined to know the best play, not the open play that might be good, and there's a sliver to get the ball through on an inbounds pass or a lob, but the best option. That is discipline. Discipline is a skill. These kids care. They play really hard. They're not disciplined enough to win in the Big Ten. That's on the players, but it's also on the coaching staff. And it's hard for coaches sometimes to take players who are naturally not as disciplined or basketball smart and make them that way. But it ultimately is our job as a coach to do that. This one more on the players today than coach, but I do think coach needs to really think about the college system overall. But discipline. And too much
college
trash
talking need more
throughout the year.
Yes.
Too much trash talking and popping the collar and yelling at the bench at the Illinois game. That stuff comes back to haunt you. It might be fun and the crowd loves it and it's enthusiasm and that, but it comes back to haunt you. And I know I'm an old guy, no pop the collar guy, but discipline. You don't foul a 3-point shooter because you're mentally not in the game. And those things.
Maybe our coaching staff isn't the best for coaching that particular skill.
I know, seriously. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but
that just bothers me.
I echo exactly what Coach said. And again,
right.
You have 2 staffs over 2 years. Like maybe there's some discipline issues left over from the last one. We don't know what goes on, behind the scenes. But there have been some really alarming, things that just been. I mean, how many 3-point shooters have we fouled this year? It's a lot. And good free throw shooters, guys, are good free throw shooters. You have to close out a little softer on those guys. Sasha Stefanovic was not going to make that 3 that Parker Stewart closed out on. He was way off, and the foul came on the way down. And it's just like, let it go, man. The ball's already gone, and that's, again, not to harp on Parker Stewart. There are plenty of issues here, but you just have to be smarter than that, especially a veteran. You have to be smarter than that. And Coach Woodson, I'll say, I thought that, one thing, I thought he wasted his timeouts today a little bit. They could have really used one late on that last possession because Mark Titus mentioned he thinks the reason that Xavier Johnson threw that ball up, thought he fouled, is that he thought they were down 3 and they were going to intentionally foul. And honestly, looking at the way that play went, that makes sense. That he thought they were down 3 instead of 2, and
you
somebody
were right
was
on.
intentionally foul.
That may be.
And a timeout, you can gather yourself, focus, and do something. So, yeah, I just think that a lack of basketball IQ and just, sometimes some mental toughness, man. Just a guy shoves you, hope he gets called, maybe flail a little, flop a little, but do not.
There's ways, Ryan, to subtly trash talk on the court without
How about make
having
a shot
refs
in the guy's
see
face?
Make
Craig
a
Galloway
shot.
knows how to do that.
When you're guarding him, you're leaning in your ear, you blow a little air in his ear and say, "I'm here all day."
The Lance
The
Stevenson
the official doesn't see it. Hey, try guarding me next time. I just hit a 3 right in your face. You whisper it in his ear. You do stuff like that. That's fine. But the demonstrative stuff that we've seen all year long, it just came back. It comes back to haunt you at times.
Yeah, where does that get you? It gets you to where we are right now. That's clearly not working, guys. Maybe change it up a little. I agree. I think that there's a tendency of guys when they do something good to want to show off, to trash talk, whatever. But
you do need passion, though.
I agree.
The counter to this, old man, is you need passion. And young kids play the game passionately, and a little woofing is some passion. And you do want some appropriate levels of excitement, because you can't just go and be dull. So, that's the negative of my argument. But there is a line, and I just thought Indiana crossed it a lot this year.
But I think the issue is with this program, it's been a program that hasn't been able to handle success. And so you celebrate and you make a big play, but then do you have the humility to get right back and do exactly what you were doing before to make the big play? And too often, this program relaxes after the big play, and that's the problem. If you back it up, talk trash, but this program hasn't backed it up is the problem.
Drop the mic, show's over. That's the perfect thing to say. The word humility, to make a good play, celebrate, and then come back and be disciplined to do the right things over and over and over and over again to win in the clutch. That's absolutely 100% on point.
Yeah, and just one last thing I want to say, just to wrap this first segment up. Xavier Johnson took a lot of heat from Indiana fans this year. I think pretty much the whole season we were saying, he's kind of up and down, but this guy changes the team. He's the straw that's going to stir the drink, and Indiana's going to go as far as he goes. He has done nothing but prove himself to be exactly what we thought. And that guy plays his tail off on both ends, even when he's not doing well offensively and shooting too many shots or firing things up or hitting a fade, trying to fade away like he did today. That guy brings it on defense every single possession. Every single possession, he is up in his defenders or in his cover's face, and he is there. And then offensively, you know what? That guy, he works so hard. So Xavier Johnson, this was his last regular season game at Indiana. We don't know what the future holds. That guy was everything you want out of a point guard. It took a little time to adjust early in the season, but he's everything you want out of a point guard. And he's a leader, and guys feed off of that. So I love Xavier Johnson, and I hope he's back next year. I think he'd be a great leader for this team next year.
I hope he's back too. All right. Coming up as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's 2-point loss to Purdue, we'll point out today's meaningful moments you might have missed, and then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight a few statistical notes from this game. You are listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
Hi, this is AJ Moyer. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the Assembly Call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
Thank you, AJ. Have to say, I started feeling a lot better about Indiana's chances today when I saw that AJ Moyer was in the building. didn't quite turn out. Maybe if you had AJ out there to make one key block or get one of those loose balls, you win the game. But always nice to see AJ around the program. You're listening to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. I'm Jared Morris. I'm here with Ryan Phillips and the coach Brian Tonsoni. We're breaking down today's 2-point loss in Mackey Arena to the Purdue Boilermakers. And guys, it's time for today's meaningful moment you might have missed.
Meaningful moments that you might have missed.
like for everybody to close their eyes for a moment. And I want you to think back to Miller Kopp's shot making today in the Purdue game. And then put that Miller Kopp in all of Indiana's previous games. And imagine what this season might have been like with this Miller Kopp all season long. Even like 75% of this Miller Kopp in most games, Indiana probably wins 3 or 4 more games. It's been so frustrating all year long, knowing what the expectations were for Miller when he came, when he transferred, as kind of being that guy who can be a shot maker, kind of play the 3-4 positions, be a versatile guy. And we just haven't seen it in most games. But tonight, you saw how important he could be. Today, you saw how important he can be because every single one of his shots was a big one. Think back to the first half when, Purdue was really in control of this game. They were up by 10, 11 points. You kind of just felt like Indiana's just desperately trying to keep touch. It was, I think, 31-18 or something like that. Miller Kopp hits a 3 to make it 33-22. It was huge. He had airballed his previous shot. And I kid you not, I had a tweet halfway written out, time to play Leal over Kopp because he's not giving us anything. I deleted it. And then Miller Kopp goes on to make like 4 threes.
Well, that's why.
Yeah. Well, and look, he was terrific in the second half, shot after shot. But I'll tell you what, the most impressive thing I saw him do, and I am guessing that this is why Miller Kopp has gotten the benefit of the doubt from Mike Woodson. He's played hard all season long. Miller Kopp always plays hard. You've never been able to criticize his effort, even if, my goodness, you criticize his shot making, right? And he's here to make shots, so that's perfectly fair. But there at the very end of the game, Indiana's down 2. Purdue inbounds the ball. That's where they inbounded it to Travion Williams. He tried to get rid of it really quickly, and it went over to Eric Hunter, and then Xavier Johnson is over there trying to foul Eric Hunter. And you saw something brewing in Xavier Johnson. And Miller Kopp ran over to him and shouted, "Stop, stop, stop," to Xavier to keep him from blowing a gasket and maybe doing something he shouldn't do there and maybe giving Purdue some free throws. It was leadership, just recognizing that Xavier's a little bit frustrated and calm him down. We heard from Chad Schwarzkopf, who was way back in the Bahamas, about the leadership qualities of Miller Kopp. And look, again, it doesn't make up for all the missed shots and the fact that he's been a disappointment for what Indiana needed. But today, everything Miller Kopp brought for Indiana was huge. You had to have a guy make shots. And if you take Miller Kopp out of this lineup, Indiana hits 1 3-pointer, that 3 by Race Thompson. Miller Kopp made shots in the second half when Indiana really needed him. We could go through all of them. His 3, it was almost the banner moment. His 3 that put Indiana up 56-52, which was the high water mark of the game for Indiana. That Purdue right after that went on their 7-0 run to go up 59-56 on that 3 by Stefanovic. But that's the Miller Kopp Indiana needed. That's the guy, the Miller Kopp that Indiana had today, who was a closer, who was making big shots, and maybe if it was him taking that shot instead of Parker Stewart, it's a different game. But we've been hard on Miller Kopp with really good reason. But he stepped it up today in a big spot. It wasn't enough, but maybe that effort and that leadership is why Mike Woodson has felt like he's had to keep him out there. And I think Mike Woodson's just dogged commitment to the experienced guys and to that starting lineup has been to his detriment a lot. And I think sticking with Parker Stewart was probably the wrong move today, but sticking with Miller Kopp really paid off. He was great today. Yeah, I thought Miller Kopp was exactly what you needed. We just needed more of this all season long.
Yeah, and I thought he did a really good job. He did it in the first Purdue game, chasing Sasha Stefanovic around. I mean, he was better at than Parker Stewart was. Of knowing which screens to go under, which ones to go over, chasing him, keeping a hand on him while keeping the arm out, making sure he didn't get a back door. I just thought the Kopp, and I think here's the thing. Kopp has not shot well lately, and I think that against Rutgers, he was rushing literally everything, and you could just see his whole body turn because he's trying to throw the shot up as fast as possible, and that happens when guys struggle. But I think defensively, he's gotten better this season. And he's never going to be a lockdown defense. He's not going to guard Jaden Ivey and hold him in check. But I think he's gotten better and better and better this year. And especially when you can put him on a good matchup, like a Stefanovic, who your job is not to hold a guy to beat you off the dribble, from beating you off the dribble. It's to guard the perimeter and to make sure a guy doesn't get shots off. And I think that's his strength, and that's where he works well defensively. And I think he did it. And I think the last few games, if you just watch how hard he's been playing, this was coming. It was just a matter of him getting a couple shots to fall. And getting locked back in. Now, this is a good sign moving forward because Indiana's season is not going to be over. Maybe Miller can build off of this because I think there's been a few games where it's been like, oh, he's right there, and didn't break through. But, Miller Kopp was +7 today. They were better when he was on the floor. And, some other guys were not better. The team was not better when they were on the floor. So I do think that it was a really nice game for Miller Kopp. And really, you're right. It's kind of oh, man, if we just had this a few more games, maybe it's a different story. But, kudos to him for doing it in a tough place to do it.
And, and it wasn't perfect. He had 3 turnovers. That turnover late, obviously really, really hurt when Travion Williams deflects that pass. So it wasn't perfect, but gosh, for a team that needs a shot maker and that brought him in to be a shot maker, he spent so many games not being a shot maker. It was nice to see him come through today. I was happy for him because I think he's played hard and he earned, this performance. Nice to see it. Just unfortunate that it came in a loss.
They're starting to run more stuff though for him here lately, the last 4 or 5 games.
The offense looks better.
That's why you're seeing better shots in the perimeter.
Yeah.
One of the things that when we took the lead, there was a double high ball screen with a flare by Parker Stewart. He set the first ball screen, and then they kicked it to the flare, and he one more passed it. He had a shot, but he one more passes it to Miller Kopp for a wide open 3. When you get Miller Kopp wide open 3s, but you ran some action, that's been different since the Wisconsin game, I feel. And then they ran a really nice set to get Rob a wide open 3. They ran a high scissors. We call it an off-ball blur action.
Yep.
Where the off guard runs underneath the cutter and gets him open. It's like little scissors play. It's called also. Yeah. And the post pitched it back, and he got a wide open look. Yep. So Indiana's been running better things in total, which is a positive. I still think in the crunch time, they come down to their 2 favorite things, which is the middle ball screen, which was very effective today. And then they come down to feed the post, and they didn't feed the post late tonight. They stuck with the middle ball screen, and it really worked other than the execution of the passes. But I think that's better stuff. Those were the meaningful moments that I was going to say. When Indiana was down 2, they get a wide open look on a brand new set that we've been calling for all the way back in December. But it seems like all of a sudden they're doing more to get different players. They're pin screening the guards. They're running floppy actions. They're doing a lot of different things, and that's why you're seeing one game a Stewart might get 2 or 3 made 3s. Now today it was Kopp. And Xavier's been shooting close to 40%. He was 0 for 4, but the other guards were 4 for 10, 40%. And that's with Finney missing his 2. And it's a guards game, still need more action like that. But Kopp was the beneficiary of, they had to change the ball screen coverage late because X was just killing them. So now they had to go hedge instead of drop coverage or do some things to stop Xavier, which left the backside open. So, it's hand in hand. The players got to make shots. The coaches got to put players in the best position to make shots. And I think that's been happening lately. It just hasn't, all the other stuff has led to a 2-3 record since this offense has started to get a little bit more movement.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, we really tried going to Trace on the block, and it just wasn't working. In the second half, when LaFonso Ellis at halftime says Indiana really has to get Trace Jackson Davis involved. And I'm thinking to myself, no, Trace Jackson Davis needs to get himself involved by being a screener and a cutter and a roller and doing all those things. And he did. And X found him. And the offense looks so much better when Indiana plays that way. But here's the thing. Indiana needed more today from Trace and Race. In the first half, they needed more from Trace. And in the second half, they needed more from Race. So a few moments. Race was awesome. He scored, 9 points early for Indiana, kind of kept Indiana, in it. But in the second half, he comes and gets his 3rd foul early on a really bad decision. And then I think there over the final, it was in the final 4 or 5 minutes, we saw 2 really uncharacteristically bad defensive plays by Race, where he was just completely unaware of what was going off the ball. And Eric Hunter got layups twice because of it. Where usually you're seeing Race come over, body a guy up, block, at least alter his path. And there was nothing.
And that was
Race Thompson is a great defensive player, but he can't do that.
that was also
really
when
cost Indiana.
That was when X was struggling with whatever he was struggling with, and Eric Hunter just blew by him twice off screens.
Yeah.
And yeah, he needed help. And again, as a teammate, you got to be aware of that. Know that, hey, maybe he's struggling a little, especially a teammate with the awareness of race. You got to be able to
defend race there a little bit. That was good action by Purdue. They were running double curls, double wide pin down curls with shooters coming off both, and they both curled them. And Indiana was chasing over screens is what you do with shooters. But they also had some pick and pop action going and some stuff where the post guys guarding the screens were staying close. So Race was a little bit off the help line at that time and gave up that one curl play where the announcer said that. And yet he's still got to be aware of that. But that's just that was the action was really well designed, and Indiana didn't have the defensive awareness to stop it.
The other meaningful moment came there late. I believe this was on Parker Stewart's missed three-pointer, where Trace Jackson Davis came out of nowhere and jumped about 30 feet in the air to get a rebound.
Yeah.
It was maybe the best rebound of Trace Jackson Davis's career. And all I could think about while watching him do that is, where is that consistently? Trace in the first half, I don't even remember what his first half numbers were, but I'll look at him real quick. He had 2 points and 2 rebounds in 17 minutes, along with 2 turnovers. That can't be. And I'm glad that the answer in the second half was not just, let's keep pounding it into the post to him. It wasn't going to work.
So let's get it moving.
To me, one of the positives from this game, and Coach, to your point of what we've seen over the last few games, is it really seems like this team is figuring out how to play offense with Trace Jackson Davis, which is, especially if there's there are matchups where he's going to be able to take advantage of you on the block. And great. When he's in one of those, feed him. But in most games against really good big guys, he needs to be what he was today. Kind of a complementary offensive player where his athleticism and his hands, because he has good hands, and his ability to finish are used in a variety of ways, but let X be the decision maker, not just dumping it into Trace and then everything revolving off of that. And the offense looked so much better doing that, and so who knows what Trace is going to do, if he's going to come back, go, or stay. But if he's going to stay, and there's going to be another Indiana basketball team built around Trace Jackson Davis, it cannot be built around Trace Jackson Davis as a post player. It has to be built around Trace Jackson Davis as the guy that we saw in the second half against Purdue, because that guy can be a more consistently impactful player regardless of matchup. Anyway,
yeah.
Agree.
I mean, you're absolutely right.
Any other moments that stood out to you guys?
No, you guys hit them. I thought that you mentioned the Miller Cop 3. I thought that was huge at the time. It obviously didn't wind up mattering it to the final score, but I thought that move and that play and that 3 were huge.
I have one more, and there probably were several like this, and I'm sure Purdue had several that were like this as well, but it stood out to me. Miller Cop fouls Sasha Stefanovic running baseline. Nowhere near getting 2 points, nowhere near getting anything. They were in the bonus, and he just chucks him. Didn't need to chuck him at that point. He wasn't in a position to get a layup. Sasha goes to the line and hits 2 free throws. That's just not smart basketball. That's kind of fake tough guy. Like, you're cutting across the lane, and I'm going to chuck you to prove that. It's better just chase him. He's been doing a good job chasing him the whole time. You didn't have to push him out of bounds and extend your arm there, because it wasn't a scoring opportunity, and yet they get 2 points. And when I say that, those things happen a lot in a game of 40 minutes on both sides. So I'm not putting that one, but every possession matters in big games. Every piece of concentration and detail. I wrote down focus and concentrate on the details of playing the game. That gave Purdue 2 points when they weren't in any position to score. And I know you credited his leadership about stopping X from getting angry or whatever else, but you also have to be smart.
No, that's a great point.
Play
Coach.
Defense without fouling, especially when it's not in any position. Those are things that are concerning about guys who want to win, and they talk a good game, and you got to teach them how, and building the culture, and all that stuff is great. You can't make those plays on the road. You just can't. And I'm sure we could go back and there are other ones similar to that, but that one stood out to me at a moment that was big. I don't have it written down the time, but that's just an example of Indiana makes more of those types of things than the opponents do that benefits Indiana. And when that gets fixed, then we'll see Indiana back in the tournament and doing some things. And that's part of the on-the-court culture that needs to be changed.
The other meaningful moment was in the first half when Jaden Ivey kicked the ball to Caleb First, who then got fouled. You know what they say, when you kick the ball and it goes in, or something good happens, you're just going to end up kicking the ball the rest of the game. Apparently, Jaden Ivey thought he would just kick the ball around for the rest of the game. And good
was he wearing Ronald McDonald's shoes, or what was going on?
He was terrible today.
He was.
What was up with Jaden Ivey today?
Parker Stewart. I know everyone's going to get mad at me for that, and Parker had some really bad moments late. He went under a screen and all that stuff, but Parker Stewart was physical with him. When he was driving in transition, he was meeting him with the chest, and he was not allowed to turn the corner. And when Ivey's at his best, he plays off 2 feet. Well, when he got in the lane to pivot, he had no room to pivot. They just totally bodied up on him. The physicality of Indiana was fantastic. Good. Absolutely fantastic, because Ivey didn't get loose. When I first saw him on the first possession, I'm like, oh, Parker Stewart on Ivey. This is not going to be good.
And it wasn't good in the first matchup. That was bad in the first matchup.
But I really, besides all the mistakes that we talked about with Parker, I thought defensively his job on Ivey was good. And I thought Rob came in and did that as well. Those two guys really locked down their best top 5 draft pick with their physicality. And that's something that Woodson has brought. Indiana was physical, very, very physical on the guards on the perimeter. They couldn't even pivot to throw into the post very easily. And that's why the post players didn't score an awful lot, because you can't throw it in when guys are in your space. Just an excellent defensive effort all the way around, especially on Ivey.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. All right, let's talk numbers here. Time to go inside the numbers. And the segment is sponsored by our buddy Ed at the Power Rank, but he's got a little something different to promote. It's his new podcast, Bracket Wisdom. And so if you want to win your March Madness pool, because it's getting close, it's serious time. It's time to start thinking about this. Ed is as trusted an analyst as you're going to find. He literally wrote the book on how to win your pool. We're going to have a special offer for you on his book. But he's now going to be coming out with a daily podcast series called Bracket Wisdom. It starts on March 7th, and it will get you ready to crush your pool. So check out the Bracket Wisdom series. It's going to appear in the feed for his show, the Football Analytics Show. So search for the Football Analytics Show, or search for Ed, or just follow him on Twitter at the Power Rank, and you'll get that awesome information from him. All right, let's dissect the numbers that tell the story of the game. A couple of good ones for Indiana. Only 9 turnovers. We know that's huge for this team to not turn the ball over. They score 15 points off of Purdue's 11 turnovers. Really did a nice job getting some steals there, especially when they were going on their run there at the end of the first half and in the second half. And Indiana outscored Purdue in the paint 30-24. Given how well Purdue can score in the paint with Edey and Travion Williams and Jaden Ivey, that was huge for Indiana to be able to do that. To your point, Coach, Purdue was able to out-rebound Indiana. But, look, at the end of the day, Purdue hit 4 more threes than Indiana. And you told me coming into the game, Purdue's going to hit 4 more threes than us. We've got to make up 12 points from the 3-point line. It's going to be really hard to do. And Indiana made up 10 of them. And they did it by making their free throws, and they did it by getting out in transition, and they did it by being tough inside. But there was just too much to make up for. And, ultimately that's why it was a 2-point loss. But some of the numbers really, really look good for Indiana. But that 3-point number is just so important. You can't consistently lose by 12 points at the 3-point line and beat good teams. Sorry. It's just as simple as that sometimes. Coach, any numbers stand out to you?
Yeah, 15-2 second chance points, which is tied into the rebounding. You lose a game by 2 and they get 15 extra points.
14 offensive rebounds for Purdue.
Yeah. And that's where, again, I thought, Trace Jackson Davis was not locked in until he started putting the ball in the basket in the second half. But I thought his rebounding was less than stellar today. I thought, his pursuit of the basketball was not what it has been. And, Indiana just was fumbling the ball. When Benetti says it looks like the ball is greased, the ball is just slipping through everyone's hands on both sides at some point. But really there was one time there was 4 offensive rebounds in one possession, and it led to a 3. When you have a game and you lose it by 1 possession, you go back and find a multitude of those. Obviously, Purdue had issues on multiple possessions as well to make it a close game. So to be fair about that. But 15-2 is one of the strengths that Indiana's had with Race and Trace has been the ability to go get rebounds and either put the ball back in or get fouled, and they did not do that tonight.
I got a number.
Yeah, I got another number.
Okay.
The IU women are up 11 at the final media timeout of the fourth quarter. Fantastic. Right. By the way, we have to get out of here by like 25 minutes because the Doing the Work crew is coming in, and their team is better than ours, so they get precedence on the StreamYard.
Hey, here's a number.
Sounds good to me. I got to go grill out.
Here you go, Jared. 12 assists for Xavier Johnson. He was, again, just more example about how 9 of them in the second half and only 2 turnovers in the second half as well. We saw both of those late, sadly. But 2 turnovers for the game. Until those 2 late turnovers, he had a ton of assists and no turnovers. I mean, Ryan
add 5 rebounds to his effort.
Of course.
5 rebounds.
3 steals.
Man, by the way, another meaningful moment was, under 2 minutes to go, they ran another really nice pick and roll, and he had Trace for the lob, and it was like he was in between shooting and lobbing it.
Yeah, exactly,
but I wonder if it was the hamstring, because he looked awkward. It's like he was going to plant. Yeah, it's like he was going to plant, and then the pass was off, so the timing was off.
Yeah, he threw the pass too hard. It wasn't a lob. It was where a lob would be, but he threw a bullet pass. He was just in between what he should do and whether he was
missed opportunity, man.
Yeah, but it was the right play, and they had him open. So
they did. All right. Coming up on the assembly call, we are going to hand out our game balls, do the Hoosier Hustle Award, discuss a lingering question or two, and then look ahead to what's coming up in the Big Ten tournament. And then we're going to get out of here for the Doing the Work crew. That is next on the assembly call. Stick with us.
This is Jordan Halls, and I never miss a shot or an episode of the Assembly Call.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. You are listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Talk about a guy who could take and make big shots. Jeez. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game and every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com, and make sure that you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Almost 10,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. Join for free at join.assemblycall.com. That's join.assemblycall.com. I'm Jared Morris here with the coach Brian Tonsoni and Ryan Phillips, and we are wrapping up our breakdown of Indiana's 2-point loss to Purdue. Gentlemen, let's hand out our game balls, assuming this is going to be just a little bit more talk about Xavier Johnson, but let's see where you guys go. Ryan, who gets your game ball?
Yeah, it's Xavier Johnson. I mean, come on. There's no other answer. 18 points. He didn't make a 3. He still scored 18 points, which means that he was just getting it done without, relying on the 3-point line. He tried. He was 0-4, but he was just finding ways to score creatively. And 4-4 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals. We went over it. Only 2 turnovers. Only had 1 personal foul when it seemed like everybody at Indiana had 3 in this game, all the starters. So, easily my player of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, there were just several runs. Race Thompson kept Indiana in it, at the very first part of the game. And then after that, at the end of the first half, when Indiana made their little surge, X was the guy leading it. When they made their surge in the middle of the second half, X was the guy leading it. And again, he gets hurt and goes out in that little stretch, and Purdue makes their run, makes a run while X is out. And you wonder, with as good as Xavier Johnson was playing, how different the game would have been. But, ifs and buts, whatever. Indiana still had a chance to win at the end, and they didn't. But, they could have used as many minutes from him as possible with the way he was playing. I mean, he was controlling the action all second half. He was the best player on the court. Coach, any lingering thoughts on X?
X gets mine. He has a high level of competitiveness, which is very hard to coach. Everyone wants to win. Everyone talks a good game about winning, and then there are players that go out and lay everything they have, good or bad, on the floor for 40 minutes. And I will talk about X's turnovers or if he gets in a jawing match with someone or is undisciplined, but there will never be a doubt that young man, and he and Race are the 2 guys that I think have a very, very high level of competitive just attitude to compete. A lot of times you'll have really talented athletes that don't compete. They compete at an average level or below average level. Xavier Johnson competes at a high level. He has a motor, and it is enjoyable, even with the late turnovers, even in a loss. Please, people, appreciate that young man wants to win, and he will do everything possible to win. There's no doubt in my mind. We have two players like that, I think, that are at the competitive level that you really need. And that's another thing with the shooters recruiting. You got to go find people who just love to compete. I wouldn't want to play X and go fish because, I mean, you would just get, he would do whatever he could take to win. You could just see it by watching. It's one of the things that's just really tough at all levels to find those people. It doesn't make anyone bad if they're not at a high level of competitiveness, but that's special, and we need to enjoy it. Hopefully, again next year, if not for the remaining games, because you don't see that level very often, and that's not just today, but most of the season, even when he was struggling.
I throw Galloway in there too. I think Galloway has.
Yes,
the same
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree, and I think Leal. When given, you'll see that more often with Leo. And I'm not bad mouthing any of the other guys, and I don't want to get here and make it personal because I know people can care. You can care and still not be at that competitive level where sometimes things just happen to you and you shake them off and you're all right. And then there are guys that just hate losing. And I think we have those three at least. And I think Leo's potentially one too. I just haven't seen it a lot because he
hasn't been on the floor very much.
He hasn't been on the floor.
Well, look, and X is the classic case of you would always rather have to kind of dial a guy back than try and dial him up.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
to Mike Woodson's credit, it seems like he has helped X get more in that positive range.
100%
Not perfect.
agree.
Sometimes it still comes out, and I think it always will. It's just part of him. But great athletes a lot of times have to live on that edge, and I think X is learning how to channel that. And I think he's shown a lot of growth. I mean, he doesn't get a free pass for being suspended against Northwestern. That may have cost Indiana an NCAA tournament bid. He was one of those guys. But he seems to have responded to it very, very well because he's played his best basketball since then.
Yeah,
so
I will say Xavier Johnson's development this season as a point guard should make everybody feel good about the future of developing point guards. Now, he's developed where some other guys haven't. So you're kind of like, okay, well, it takes time to figure out what the player development for each new staff is like. But Xavier Johnson's development and his turn towards consistency certainly does hearten you moving forward to what can happen here and development and things like that. Now, you got to make it happen with everybody on the roster, but specifically from a point guard perspective, that has been really telling.
And Roger in the chat mob makes a great point. You can have a high level of competitiveness and make mistakes.
Yes.
And you're going to still call people out for making those mistakes, like not knowing time and score, maybe at the end, if that was the situation with the three, or even the turnovers if he made a bad decision. But what you bank on as a coach is when someone's highly competitive and you call them out for the mistakes, they're going to try to fix it. And that's that growth that you're talking about that I've seen throughout the 30-some games Indiana's played.
Okay. Next up is time for
The Hoosier Hustle Award.
It is time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services, based in the hometown of IU legend Calbert Chaney. That was a guy who could take and make big shots. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. That's evansvillesecurityservices.com. Ryan, who gets your Hustle Award?
Miller Kopp. I thought he played a really good game. I thought he gave a lot of effort on both ends. I thought there were times where he was trying to will Indiana offensively. I mean, you saw that one time he caught the ball in the corner, took that one dribble. Robbie Hummel was really upset about it, and he nailed a mid-range jumper. I agreed with Miller on that one. I don't think three was open. But I also thought he moved really well defensively. I thought that he was, he did move the ball offensively as well when he didn't have shots. Obviously, that inbounds play late was unfortunate, but I think that he showed what his value is to this team today, and hopefully maybe this sparks him moving forward.
Coach,
I'm going to go a little bit off the path here, so don't go with mine if you don't want to. But
I know what you're doing. I know what you're about to do.
You do?
Yes.
Put it in the private chat right now before I say it. I want to see if you really do know. You got a couple seconds here. I'll see. Okay. I won't look either until that. I'm going Michael Durr.
Oh, whoa! Okay. Off the board.
That is off the board.
Again, Michael Durr against Purdue. It's apparently his matchup.
Yeah. +7, and I don't like that plus minus, but he's tied for the most plus minus in 8 minutes.
Drink.
Right.
If you're drinking every time we qualify the plus minus, there you go.
Yeah. There you go. Put it on the bingo board. But all of a sudden it seemed like when he was out there, we made some mini runs. It seemed like the offense Ryan texted he didn't mind Durr taking that 3. You know what? I didn't either.
I didn't either.
It seemed like a shot
take it once. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
He can
he's
make
not
that
afraid
shot.
to do that.
Didn't he win the 3-point contest at Hoosier Hysteria?
I think he did.
Yeah, but he made a bunch of them. I mean, he can shoot it a little bit.
He had a couple of free throws, 3 rebounds in 8 minutes, a steal, 2 assists. That's maximizing your time on the court. I am quietly liking him as he stays next year. I know we probably need to hit the portal and get some extra bigs in there, but I don't know that he'll be a 20-point guy, but there's something about it that I think he just knocks.
Can say he won't be a 20-point guy.
Yeah, he knocks those. Mr. Obvious statement there by Coach. So yeah, he gets my 1 for being able to go when you get limited run. That's a strength too, because that's just really hard to get consistent play when you don't get a lot of runs. So yeah, that's off the board. I know you didn't have that one, right?
I did not have that one. No, I thought you were going to go with Parker Stewart for his defense.
No,
but okay, well,
he played well, but he also didn't hustle at times.
No, I know.
You gotta have faith in me. You gotta have a little more faith in me, Morris. I'm a little hurt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Miller. I'm gonna go with Miller Kopp, and not for the shooting. And again, he made some bad decisions and some bad plays. But yeah, again, I thought, that he kind of earned his good shooting. It's almost kind of a cumulative hustle award for him, because I do think he's played hard. I do think he showed leadership, and I think coaches are willing to stick with those guys when they do. Unfortunately, he was able to come through with the shooting today. All right, so I say no bracketology talk. Because we all know that we're not in the tournament right now. And so until we win 2 Big Ten tournament games, there's no reason to talk bracketology. So here's the lingering question that I want to ask you guys, because, and we'll have time. We'll talk about the Big Ten tournament in the future. But here's a lingering question I think a lot of people are going to start wondering. A road win at Northwestern, that probably at least puts us right there squarely on the bubble. Whether it gets us in or not, I don't know. As you guys look back on that, again, we don't know all the details of what happened, but if I just say that, that decision to suspend those guys and lose that game cost this team a chance at the NCAA tournament, do you think any differently about the decision itself?
I'm going to say no. If Coach Woodson thought it was best to set a tone that rules are rules and rules were violated, and the punishment for violating that rule, if he felt that way, it's his program, and he had the right to do that. And you'd make those decisions irregardless of what it's going to cost you down the line. If you're a leader, and whether I agree with that, whether if I would have known the circumstances would have been different, that's still in play for me. But you got to trust a guy that this is what he believes in, and he's going to do it. And if it costs an NCAA tournament and it pays off down the road, then yeah, he had the right to do it, and he needs to do it. If he's making decisions that he doesn't believe in to win games, that too comes back to haunt you down the road in certain ways when you're in a leadership position. So it hurts us right now to look at it as fans and going to miss out, but you got to have faith in the leader. And until everything is known, then I really have no other option, I think, as a fellow coach, than say he did what he believed was best.
I got something to say about this. I have no problem with the suspension because guess what? Even with those guys suspended, you still should have beaten Northwestern.
Also true.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Like-
that's kind of my point. Is I think the question is based on a false premise anyway. You know, like that game did not cost us the NCAA tournament. We still could have won that game.
And
we
still
had many
made the NCAA
opportunities
tournament
since.
if we close out
So-
Wisconsin and Ohio State.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. So,
So-
the suspension to me is not to blame for missing the tournament.
Agree,
You know,
100%.
you can whittle it down to that. You know, Ron Harper Jr.'s 3 is not to blame for Indiana missing the tournament. There are, that's taking like a microscope and looking at one thing when there is a massive mountain in front of you of all the ways Indiana could have made the tournament and didn't and failed to do so. And the blame for that goes to everybody. The Northwestern game, sure, you can blame the guys who got suspended. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if some people I'm sure blame Woody for suspending them. I don't. I think that some people said well, a curfew violation is usually a half suspension, not a full game. Well, he wanted to make a statement. It's his program. He's allowed to do that. Whether we question it or not, which I don't, I think it was the right move.
No, we never questioned it.
Yeah, no, and whether we, the general public, question it or not, doesn't matter. It's his program. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Our opinion does not matter as far as that goes. But at the same time, you zero in on that, you are missing a mountain of opportunities Indiana had of games where they were leading in the last 5 minutes. Penn State. I mean, you close out Penn State. You close out Wisconsin. You close out Ohio State. You close out Iowa. I mean, there are opportunities there that they had to win, and one or two of those wins put you in the tournament easily.
All right, last lingering question. Can this team make a run in the Big Ten tournament? I mean, like just kind of your gut feeling, I mean, because at some point you gotta make shots. You got to get hot. You're not just going to go grind out a whole bunch of wins, I don't think, without making shots. The team hasn't really shown that. And yet they've shown some fight in some of these tough games late. They just haven't been able to close them out.
Are they
The answer is
Michigan?
It's Michigan or Michigan State, one of the two.
Oh, great.
I'd rather play Michigan State personally.
Yes.
The answer is yes. If you get by that first game, because Michigan handed it to us, but Indiana has shown
Michigan
the
State.
ability to play with people. Even in the Michigan State debacle, Indiana showed that they can play with Michigan State, and then it just got to 14-point. I don't think Indiana is destined to lose any game. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good, but it's set up good because we know you can play with Wisconsin. Had a big lead, lost it in the first game, had a lead to the minute and a half, lost the second one. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. Number 1 seeds Wisconsin, and I think that they're not so overly athletic that's going to give Indiana problems. And then it is Iowa and Ohio State in the 4-5, I believe, or at least at one point I looked at the rankings. If that matchup wins, you've beaten Ohio State, had a lead late against Ohio State, had a lead against Iowa. So I'm not trying to be an optimist here, but you win that 8-9 game, you got 3 teams that we've played better than the other side of the bracket for the most part.
This is like a classic Scott Caulfield from Crimson Cast discussion. I mean, if we win that first game,
I know it's a big if,
Four.
but come on, it's Indiana. It's Indiana. You got to keep rooting for them.
Hey, we'll
it's
keep
18-12, but I do think so. I don't think there's a team that in the Big Ten is so tough that automatically is going to beat Indiana, and Indiana's not going to have a chance. Are they going to have to play better, going to play for 40 minutes, hit shots, all the things that we've struggled with, which makes us kind of nervous? Yeah, can they do it 3 games in a row? The faith is probably not there, but we've seen stranger things.
I mean, yeah, look, it's unlikely, but there's a few things that would work in Indiana's favor to give us a chance. We defend, which is going to keep us in games. We have a guard playing at a really high level, which in back-to-back-to-back type situations you need. And I don't want to be a broken record and oversimplify things. It's going to come down to making shots. If you get Miller Kopp and Parker Stewart both making shots, Indiana can go on a freaking run because it's the reason we've been losing.
Or actually play
because you got the
Anthony
defense,
Leal,
you got X. Make
What's
some
up?
shots. That's it.
Froze.
What'd you say, Ryan? Ryan froze.
What a beautiful
Best
sight.
moment of the season.
Banner moment. Look at that right there.
It's
He's
completely
back.
ridiculous.
We
All right,
were
I gotta
really
get out of here.
sad.
Thank you.
We were really sad
I know.
that you froze for a while.
Hey, get
Don't
Trey
let
Galloway
Chatmont
back
tell you
too.
differently.
Yeah,
Get
I don't
Trey
know.
Galloway back,
I don't know
too.
if Trey's coming back, but we'll see.
I don't know.
That groin injury is apparently rough.
Well,
Okay, we
Anthony
got to get
Leal-
out of here because the Doing the Work crew is going to be coming The women were up by 6 with 30 seconds left. Last chance I saw. Is that game still going on? Damn. Apparently, someone said Woodson looks visibly emotional during his post-game press conference. I have to go watch that. All right, guys, let's do last call in terms of upcoming shows. Well, the next show, unless we do something impromptu between now and the Big Ten tournament, the next show will be after Indiana's opening round game in the Big Ten tournament. I should be here for that, assuming I have proper childcare, because it's the early game. I think the game is going to start at like 11 my time. Hopefully someone else can be here with me, but we will for sure have a show for you. So we'll talk to you then. We'll obviously do some stuff in the community and on Twitter, and maybe we'll try and do a Twitter space in between now and then. But anyway, let's go to last call and get out of here for Jeff and Kathy. Coach, last call. Indiana loses to Purdue again.
Yeah, a tough game that came just down to some execution issues at the very end. But again, this was a game I was really fearful would not be enjoyable after the first 10, 12 minutes, and it kind of looked that way. And Indiana, again, showed some resolve to keep fighting. And I know we're not here for moral victories, but we enjoyed the game down to the end and got frustrated. Again, I'm at least a little happy to be frustrated as opposed to some teams getting blown out at this point of the season. And we just need to find shooters and keep playing that defense, because at some point the water's going to find its level and people are going to make plays on our side, and we're going to get a win here that maybe no one expects, and we'll be joyful again. So hang in there, Hoosier Nation. Just hang in there.
Hang in there. Ryan, last call.
A disappointing end to the regular season. Obviously, they played very hard today. I don't think that you can knock the effort. But this team was 16-5 and 7-4 in the Big Ten a couple weeks ago, and finishes 18-12 and 9-11. They lost. Well, they went 2-7 down the stretch. Lost 5 in a row at one point. This program's just got to get better, and it's not on one person. It's on the whole program. You can't be finishing the Big Ten season 2-7 and expect good things to happen to your program. So hopefully they go on a run of the Big Ten tournament. We would all love to see it. It would be the first time ever, really. But
it was one time. We made the title game one time, long ago.
Yeah,
long ago.
So long ago that
barely remember
the records have been lost. It's
current IU students weren't alive then, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so, but the bottom line on the season is, this hasn't been a lack of effort. It hasn't been a lack of trying. It hasn't been a lack of hustle in a lot of situations. It's been a lack of focused, disciplined play. And it's typically happening in the last 6 minutes. And so this program has to take this offseason and figure out why, and figure out what is going on, what changes during that last 6 minutes. Because I'll tell you what, after that initial burst of the second half, there was about a 5, 6, 7 minute run where Indiana was a better team. Indiana was the better team and was getting whatever it wanted against Purdue. And then it stops. And that has happened to us so much this year. And so this program just needs to take a step out and take a hard look at what the difference is and why winning time is so bad for this program. And it has been, it's not just Mike Woodson. It has been for a long time. Why can these guys not win when it's winning time? So that's it for me on the regular season. I think that, again, you had some things to point to that were positive, like Xavier Johnson today, like Miller Kopp. But you lose to Purdue again. And bottom line, losing to Purdue when you're Indiana, it hurts and it shouldn't be acceptable. And we need to figure out a way to turn this all around.
So it's all about shooting.
Got to make shots. This program has got to.
Tom Crean was right, Jared.
Well, you got to do some other things also. But once you have those other things in place, once you have a defense to keep you in the game, and you have a point guard who can control the action, then you just got to be able to step up and make shots at the end of games. And Indiana hasn't been able to do that. I will leave you with this little bit of hope. The IU women lost 4 of their last 5 down the stretch, and they are now in the Big Ten tournament championship game. Although it's a real disservice to our women's team to compare this year's men's team to them, because they've shown incredible toughness and ability to close out games all season long, and we love watching them play. But you can struggle down the stretch and get going at tournament time. If you get hot, you get some good matchups. So, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that is the hope that we have to cling to. And that's what we're going to have to cling to right now as we continue to hope that this program gets back into the NCAA tournament. They're going to have to do something that is unlikely and that they haven't done before, but that's the position that they've put themselves in. Again, there was a path to walk away from today's game and feel okay about the way Indiana played. A tough 2-point loss at a top 10 team. Sometimes that happens and you have to tip your cap to the opponent, yada, yada. But given the context of this season, Indiana had to win today, and they didn't. And it's a continuation of all the frustrating things that we've seen. And ultimately, this team is on the outside looking in for the NCAA tournament, and it has everything it needs to be better than that, and it's not. So back to the drawing board, and hopefully we see something change in the Big Ten tournament coming up. All right, that is going to do it for us. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall. And don't forget to go to join.assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. Special thank you to Bob Thompson for the music that you hear on the show. Special thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design for designing our logo. And thank you for listening. We'll be back on Thursday after Indiana's Big Ten tournament opener to talk more IU basketball with you. Until then,
take it from me, Rob Hennessy. Keep your eyes on the rim, your elbows in. Go Hoosiers.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
All right, we're going to get out of here. There should be, if you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall, you will find the link for the Doing the Work show, because they are going to be firing up right after us. So we got to vacate the StreamYard, let them in, and let's talk about another IU women's basketball winner. See y'all. See you Thursday. See you guys.